The impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
And it is not a question of a little occultism or a touch of mysticism, Mr. Benton. It is vampires. There's a host of damned souls at Manor House.
I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night.
Here, the old gods aren't dead.
And what of the true god?
He's dead. Can't complain.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
You're listening to Paranormal UK Radio.
Welcome to Paranormal UK Radio, the flagship show on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I'm your host, Irene Allen Block, and with me is my co-host, Marcus Johnson.
I'm Marcus this week, huh?
Well, it was Marco. I was thinking of Marco, actually. But,
oh, Marco.
You know, I just want to give a bit of that European feel to you, you know?
Marco Polo, or I had an aunt that used to call me Markle Farkle.
Markle what?
Markle Farkle.
Markle Farkle. Oh, you're never going to live that one down now, are you? Huh? Okay, Markle Farkle.
I've been called it for many years. Of course, you know, I'm also called quite a few other names, too, but we just can't repeat that here on the radio.
Well, I call you quite a few names. I've got to admit that.
Yes, you do. And some of them I just scratch my head over.
Why? Because you can't understand English?
No, because I can't understand you.
Me?
Yeah.
You can't understand me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Especially when you get into alien speak.
Ah, yeah. Well, when I go into alien speak, that's different, isn't it?
Yep.
You know, that's a whole new language altogether.
I need a universal translator for that one.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah.
So I hear you're actually having a summer over there this year.
We've been having a summer for the last 6 or 8 weeks. We've had a drizzle of rain, and that's about it. It's so hot, it's unbelievable. I'm sitting here with a fan. Like I said just now, you know, I could do with one of those little Egyptian boys with those big fans just waving it over me, half semi-naked Egyptian boy.
Or you can have one
and I've got a right to think like that because I'm an old woman.
Well, you can have a big Egyptian man, but unfortunately, those were all eunuchs, so.
Yeah, they were, weren't they?
So you're a little SOL there.
Yeah, no, it's very, very hot. I've got to admit that one. And guess what? I went to St. David's.
I saw some of your photos. Now I have to do what I do best, which is download them and see if anything shows up in them.
Yeah, you can do that. I'll keep you occupied for a little while. But what a place, honestly. You stand up on the hillside, you go through the gateway, and then you stand on the hillside. You've got the 12th century cathedral there of St. David, and right next to it, the ruins of the bishop's palace. Well, of course, St. David, back in the 5th century, was a bishop until he was sanctified. I got that word right, did I?
I'm not a Catholic, so he was oh geez, what do they call that? I'm not Catholic, so canonized. Yes.
Canonized, sanctified. Canonized in the 5th or 6th century and made a saint, and obviously then became the patron saint of Wales. But to be there, to know that you're walking in the rooms, or the ruined rooms, obviously, of the palace where he walked, and, you know, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
That's phenomenal. You have such great history.
I picked up an attachment. For all those paranormal people out there, I picked up an attachment.
And what have you done with it so far?
Nothing. I am just wallowing in hatred and anger, and I couldn't care two hoots about anything that's going on.
You need
attitude at the moment. Yeah, I've got an attachment, people.
Well, you need to put it to work. It's like if it's going to, hang around, make it do the dishes or something.
I got a dishwasher for that.
Yeah, otherwise tell it to naff off.
Mind you, my dishwasher is computerized. I can't work it. It's like everything else in the kitchen, everything. The cooker's a computer. Everything's a computer.
So that's basically a lost cause for you.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I just sit out there and eat cornflakes. That's true.
You and technology don't work very well.
Do you know, I try to start, because it's a built-in hob, okay? And it's all computerized and God knows what else, and it only takes certain types of pots and pans. And I tried to work it the other day just to boil an egg. I had to phone my husband in London to find out how to work the bloody hob so I could get this water boiling on the top. And he just turned around and said, well, you've got an egg boiler in there. Why don't you use that? An egg boiler is one of these kind of little things where you put the boiled eggs in and you plug it into the wall and it's on a timer and it cooks your perfect boiled eggs.
And let me guess, you still burn it.
I did, because you meant to put a little bit of water in the bottom. I forgot to put the water in, but that's not the point. You know, it does give you perfect boiled eggs. If somebody else is using it other than myself, you know, I didn't get perfect boiled eggs. They were more like rubbery.
Well, I'm glad you've had a good trip over to there. I was in, of course, Barbados last week. Former British colony, I think.
Yes. Did you find anything really British out there besides a British person?
I met people from...
Was there any red telephone boxes?
No red telephone boxes. I did meet some people from Ireland.
No. Nice.
Yeah, very nice people. Doing a catamaran snorkeling trip.
Mm-hmm.
So,
did you see a turtle?
Yes, I did. He the only turtle that seemed to be out there that day, and he floated right underneath me. I could reach down and touch him.
Did you give him a name?
No, he took off too quickly.
Oh, so you just called him Turtle.
Turtle, yeah.
Myrtle the turtle. Okay.
Let me tell you something. The one thing that really struck home to me. Being out of the U.S. And for those listeners who are in the U.S., you might be able to sympathize with this.
You mean you were abroad?
I was abroad, away from social media, away from all the insane negativity and propaganda and that we're being bombarded with here. You know,
it's not happening outside of America.
No, in
not
America,
that much. Not that much.
No.
You know, you get 5 minutes of Trumpy on the television, and that's about it. We're more worried about bloody Brexit and God knows what else that's going on over here at the moment. Where are we going to be in the next couple of years?
Yeah.
Why should we? You know.
But you know what? Over here, what's really bad the last couple of years is race relations. And, you know, ever since the last president, you know, pretty much brought race relations back to the 1960s. And everything over here is about race and it's just so ugly and nasty. And yet, when being down in Barbados, ran into this large... Barbados. Ran into this large... Well, first of all, you know, most of the island is black. Most of the people who live there are black. The sweetest, nicest people on the planet. The people who worked at the hotel were phenomenal. The customer service, I can't rave enough about how friendly everybody is. You walk past somebody, not only do they greet you, they remember you. You know, you can't get that here in the States.
That's what makes it different, isn't it?
Well, the other thing is just when people get out of the U.S., too. I ran into this group from Chicago. There was about 60 of them. They were several people in their group were all celebrating their 50th birthday. And my wife and I were walking through the resort the first night, just kind of looking around, checking the place out. And we heard this music coming. We go, oh, looks like some kind of party. So we go over there, and they had a bar set up, and people were dancing. And, you know, it was all black people. And we're going, uh-oh, I think we're in a private party here. And so we're going, well, we don't we don't want to crash this. We'll go ahead and exit. Before we know it, a couple people start talking to us, super friendly, invited us to dance, to party with them. They're giving drinks. You know, we basically crashed their birthday party. We met half the people there. It was so much fun. And then, you know, we ran into them several times, and every time we ran into them, they're like, hey, come and join us. And they brought us into their group and have a drink and dancing and whatnot. And it's just like, you just don't get that while you're here, while you're in the States. But you get out and people's attitudes change. And you're
well, it's the same over here, Mark. You know, you go to Spain, you go to Italy, everybody's attitudes change. You know, it's all just friendliness. Everyone's so nice.
Unless you go to France and then everybody's attitude sucks, but
no, they just charge you a lot of money for coffee.
Okay, I just thought the French just had a bad attitude to begin with. But no, we love our French listeners. I'm just kidding.
But you say no? We have got quite a few French listeners actually.
Not anymore after that comment.
Anyway, so what I was going to say was, so you don't get this kind of in America?
No.
Or is it because there's so much going on at the moment?
I think it's because there's so much onslaught no matter where you go, whatever you turn on the news, you look at social media, there is so much negativity out there that, it's causing people to go crazy. And when you get away from it, put it aside, go out and meet genuine people, what a world of difference. I mean, I almost didn't want to come back just because I was enjoying myself so much. And you're meeting not only, people from America, but people from around the world. And everyone's talking to you, and you're getting to know people and networking. And it just really makes you want to take a step back and think about what's in your life, what you're surrounded with, what are you being bombarded with, and how you can tune it out and focus on what's important.
Yeah, but that's it, isn't it? That's the main thing.
Yep.
And like you say, there's so much negativity on Facebook at the moment. We're getting slandered by a certain person, but we don't care. We don't care because it's all free advertising.
Yep. Go ahead. Bash away. Just spell our names right,
Yeah. Anyway, also, right, what have we got coming? Come on, Mark.
Yes.
We've got 2 new shows.
We have 2 brand new shows that are going to be premiering right here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And
Paranormal UK Radio Network, yeah.
Yep. One is going to be a bi-weekly show, and the other will be a monthly show. We play most of our monthly shows on Thursdays. But the first show that is going to be airing with us will be it's the Realm of the Outer Nowhere Radio Show. And that is going to be with our good friends and our recent guests who appeared on our show, Paul Sinclair and Chris Evers.
Yeah, they're lovely people.
Wonderful guys. They great.
They really know their stuff.
They know their stuff. They're so much fun to talk to. And so they're going to be doing their own show, and we're going to be premiering them soon in front of our show. What?
Tonight.
Yes.
Tonight.
Well, it's already aired for people who are listening to our show. So if you missed it, every 2 weeks at 8 p.m. British time and Eastern time here in the U.S., you'll hear the Outer Nowhere Radio Show with Paul Sinclair and Chris Evers. And then starting the second Thursday of every month, we have a new show, Realm of the Supernatural.
That's going to be good as well.
That's a really good show with Lee Solway and Andy McHugh. And they've been doing their podcast for a while. We spoke to them. They're going to come on over and start airing their show here on our network as well. So we're really proud and excited as the network keeps expanding and growing. We keep adding great new shows for everyone to listen to. So, definitely check the website at paranormalukradionetwork.com to look at the updated show schedule so you don't miss any of your favorite shows.
Yeah, and we got even more coming soon.
Oh, more to come.
What was that again? What was Lee's show again? Realm of the Supernatural. That sounds really good, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, it does.
Mind you, Out to Nowhere sounds good as well.
Yes. Well, it all sounds good to me. Can't wait for these guys to listen to their show. So,
no, brilliant. Absolute brilliant. Right.
So, speaking of shows, time to get on with our own show, isn't it?
That would be a good idea, yeah.
Okay.
Hope we got tonight, Mark. Mark, what was it again?
Marco?
Farkle.
Markle Farkle.
Markle Farkle. Who have we got tonight?
I'm going to start getting emails of people calling me Markle Farkle now.
Oh, Markle Farkle. Oh, that didn't sound too good, did it?
blame my aunt Janice for naming me that one when I was like 4 or 5.
Okay, Markle Farkle, get on with it.
We got a great guest tonight. We have Ginette Lucas. Now, Jeanette is a psychic medium, and she is also has worked on a number of missing person cases, some of them quite famous that you may have heard about, and we're going to just be talking about those. So, Jeanette, welcome to the program.
Thanks, guys.
Hello,
hi, Irene.
Jeanette. Hello.
First,
Hello.
Jeanette, let me apologize. We got diarrhea of the mouth going this time, so we normally don't run that long. So
that's because he's had a week away or whatever in the Bahamas. Bahamas, Mark, not Bahamas.
Barbados.
Barbados. Oh, Barbados was it?
The West Indies.
Barbados.
It used to be your colony.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were in the Bahamas. Never mind.
Oh, good Lord.
Good job too. I didn't have to send a helicopter, isn't it? Oh, gosh.
Anyway. So, Jeanette, thank you for coming on the show. And,
thanks for having me.
And just for our guests, sorry about that. Just for our listeners out there, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first came about understanding your abilities?
Sure. My father is pretty famous worldwide. His name is Louis, Louis Matascia, and we have a funny name. My father's family is European, from Italy, and my father got into dowsing, and I know Irene knows what dowsing is. Mark, do you know what dowsing is, don't you?
Yes, I have a pair of dowsing rods myself. Don't really use them that much anymore, but yes, I know it.
Okay, well, the fork and stick went to the dowsing rod because my dad invented the dowsing rod. And then from the fork and stick, it went over to the pendulums. So the pendulums, of course, were out for years. But in the early 60s, my father was watching the TV, just like all of us, and he was upset about the Vietnam War. And he thought maybe he could apply the water dowsing location to the work during the Vietnam War. So what he did was he met with some CIA people he knew, and he said, why can't we apply finding booby traps and bombs or the tunnels overseas and see if we can stop all the damage to our boys overseas? And he had a presentation with a bunch of generals, which is written about in many books. And when the generals came to our yard to do another presentation, I was in the backyard with my brother, and I was about 7. So I was introduced to dowsing first, and the first approach was to locate a stream of water. So my brother did the stream of water, and I was about 7. My brother was about, 8 or 9. And we were showing them how to use the L-rod to pinpoint where water is located. And I said, well, that's really dumb, because I was 7. And I said, why aren't we just going to go for the larger body of water? Let's find like where the underground stream is that creates a pond and that kind of thing. And so I found an area, they dug, and within a matter of inches was a bunch of water popping up. So that sort of shocked me, and I was hooked. That was it. So some people do get introduced to the paranormal early, whether it's ghost hunting or ghosts in the home or one thing or another, but I was thrown into the dowsing world. That was my start.
Now, you were thrown into it and learning dowsing, but then what about... well, let me ask you this, and let me back up here a second. Sure. Other than dowsing, what are some of your other skills or abilities that you've learned about? Abilities.
Well, Yeah, sure. I call them talents, abilities, whatever you want to call them. I don't like the word power because I think our brain can turn on if we switch it on. Years later, when I was, I guess, later in elementary school or intermediate school, I was invited out to Maryland to go listen to a tarot reader. And we all have teachers, So I was a kid. My dad goes, why don't you just sit down with her and see what you think of the tarot cards? Because I would play with a deck of cards. And I would turn them over and tell my dad what I see in the picture. So he would ask a question, and I would use a deck of cards or a card and say, I see this, this, this. So in the deck of cards, I would see visions, obviously. And the new word for visions repackaged is remote viewing. And I would say, oh, I see this barn and so forth and so on. And that would be the answer to my dad's question. And that's how we applied it. So the next thing I know, he goes, I'm going to be teaching in Maryland. Come with me, meet this teacher who does tarot, and we'll go from there. So during the night, when we spent the night at the lady's house, I got up and I woke him up at 2 a.m. and I said, oh, my God, Dad, I had this terrible dream. And some kid got murdered or killed, and he's behind the apple orchard. And here's all the details, and I drew pictures and so forth. And he goes, that's terrible. Go to bed. I said, okay. And the next morning, about 8 a.m. or 7 a.m., really quickly, a sheriff called the woman that was teaching me the tarot, and she apparently did police work, so she did missing persons and that kind of thing. And they told her that there was a missing kid, and could she help? And she said, why don't you get over here? I've got a new student. I want you to meet her. And the cop came over, and he said, so tell me what I need to look for. And I said, so I drew a picture first, and I said, what, you need to start here. And it was a picture of a stone house that was square, perfectly square with a hip roof. And there were no trees in the front yard at all. It was really bizarre, but it had a U-shaped, half moon shaped driveway and one tree in the center in front of the house. And it was like a younger tree. And I drew that, and I was starting to draw more, and I gave it to the cop. I said, we have to start here. And he looked at me, and he looked at her, and he goes, I got to go to the car. I'll be right back. And so I get a lot of weird reactions from people when I talk to people. And he came back, and he goes, let me show you something. And it was a picture of his home, which was identical to the picture I drew. And he goes, I forgot my dark glasses, and I forgot my radio and my pistol at my house, and this is my house. And so we went from there, and I said, well, the boy you're looking for is, and I described all the details. I said, 1 of 5. He lives on a trailer on top of a hill on the left side of the road going there. And on the right side is an apple orchard. In the back, I see somebody who's autistic, and there was a fight, and it was an accident, and you really can't charge him criminally because most autistic children don't have a clue what's going on. They can be the age of 2, 5, 7, really young. And I said, but his body is back there in the apple trees, but I don't know if you're going to find him. And what had happened was overnight, it had rained so badly that they couldn't use the canine to search, and it kept raining and raining. You know how that is, Irene. You work on a project, and the weather can alter the outcome of your prediction because you could have too much rain, you could have flooding, you could have too much snow, or you can't even go and search because you can't see the remains, and the dogs can't do their job.
Oh, yeah, they can't pick up the scent, yeah.
No, it's really frustrating. So I pretty much freaked out people at that time, and that was sort of a start of my work. And then I would read any book I could on foreign psychics because America was not that open at the time to psychics. We had our Edgar Cayce at the time, and we had I was really in love with certain psychics more than others and their abilities. Their presence, their presentation, their discussions. I liked Eileen Garrett. I believe she was European and she came to New York. And because Eileen did the one where it was like a dirigible that blew up or something. She was amazing. And so I noticed that she was talking to the dead, and I thought, well, I wonder if I could do that. And so every time I read up on a different psychic, I thought, I wonder what their approach is. And I worked a full-time job. I used to be an executive secretary, but I was bored with it. I kept trying to get out of that and get into sales. and marketing, and
Jeanette, Jeanette, roughly how far back are we at the moment? How far back is this? Because your voice sounds really young.
No, I'm not young.
I know.
Really? Yeah, no.
But you sound young, so listeners will think that you are young. Roughly how far back are we going on this?
Okay, the first time I dowsed, I was about seven, and that was in 1963. And my first crime job was the little boy missing in Maryland with the tarot teacher, and I would bet it was 10 years later. And so that was 73. I graduated high school in 76, and I'm turning 60 in a few months. But I don't look my age. So a lot of Italians don't look their age. We're very fortunate.
No, that's true. Well, I have a lot to do with Italy, so I know that you're right there. They certainly don't look their age.
Yeah, it's just, we look young, we sound young. My father never sounded, he's turning 88, but he's got dementia. And he doesn't sound 88 at all. And we had relatives live to be 106. So it is what it is. We're very fortunate. But so going back, my first missing person was around 13. And my next case was in New York, and that was, honestly, I think it was driven by a lot of the other British psychics and foreign psychics like Uri Geller, and sometimes even influenced by Christopher Robinson, who did dreaming. I have incredible dreams, and I can give predictions based on incredible dreams. And I think the Brits influence us a lot more in certain categories than others. And so I think that the problem in my family is my mom is English and Scottish, and my father was a little bit of everything, the Italian, blah, blah. But what's interesting is the Brits verbalize terms that I think the English start compounding on, and it doesn't even make sense. I'm sorry, but the Americans some of it is just, it's goofy. It's like blah, blah, blah. It's hard to understand. I mean, I don't know what you think, but I just tell people black and white, yes or no. Or
I am more black and white. A lot of the stuff that they come out with, I can't understand either on these terms.
Right.
I'm just black and white. I'm from the old school, and I get on better that way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how the Brits are. Is that either he did it or he didn't, or I'm not sure. I mean, most of the time I can say, I feel like she's dead or alive, for example, and we're talking about water or land. That's black and white. Or it's, I was talking to a friend of mine at the CIA, and I said, so what's going on with the homicides these days? And he goes, things have changed dramatically. We have terrorists as suspects. We have killers that could be random. And we have, it used to be, he said, 80% of homicides were done by family members or distant family members or a neighbor. Not like that anymore. It's not like that.
That's changed. That definitely has changed. Yeah.
So it makes it harder for us, meaning the psychics or the dowsers out there. I don't know if it was fortunate on my part, Mark, or Irene. I don't know how you feel about it, but I had 3 near-death experiences, and that influenced my work. But I will say, I go back to the books and I read what other psychics are up to, and I tell myself, keep within your boundaries, because I do notice. I don't know what you think, Irene, but I think that a lot of the British psychics are very fully aware of the fact that you have to be careful.
Oh yeah.
I just don't. Mark, have you been read by a lot of psychics? What's your take on the definition of a psychic?
Here we don't go over the top. We only go as far as what we're capable of handling, and that's it. We are careful.
Yeah,
we are very careful. We're careful with what we say as well, a lot of us.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say that as far as psychics go in reading me, very few psychics have ever been able to read me. And a lot of it has to do with, I just believe that those people are not as good as they think they are. They're all trying to impress somebody and impress people, but I've caught too many of them doing cold readings and fishing for information.
Are you talking about British psychics?
No, just in general.
Oh.
In general. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just in general. So, but I mean, I've dealt with some very psychics I think that are very talented, and I've had some of my own experiences, and it's like anything. It all depends on, the information that somebody gets, how they're able to interpret it. And some people don't interpret the information correctly. They're jumping ahead too quickly, and they're not taking the time to think about what it is that they're picking up on. And or they're so desperate to impress that that they want to say anything just to keep somebody's interest.
Well, Irene, what are some of your talents? What are some of your abilities? I mean, I can explain mine, but so let's go across the pond. Irene, tell us what are some of your talents.
Jeanette, really, I don't talk about mine. I honestly don't talk about. No. I get on if I've got something to do, if I've got a job to do, I get on and do it, and that's it. But I don't put it out there. I don't tell anybody I've done it. I don't advertise anything. Mark will tell you that.
Yeah, as far as Irene is concerned, we call her an extrasensor because nobody knows what that means, and that's just fine because then she can't be classified.
I get it.
Yeah.
Or accused of being a spy.
and you, of course, you could be. I mean, here in America, I'll just say one thing that's really funny, Mark. With my work, every time I turn around, I have to prove everything I do, everything I say. For example, I had an interview with Fate magazine. I guess they're out of the Midwest. And they said, "Can you prove it?" And I said, "Sure. Here's my letter of reference. Here's my personal contact of the person involved." And, it's not like England. England, you either did it or you didn't. For example, here's another silly example. When I worked on the 9/11 case, I had a dream one night, and I said, I see two planes crashing into these two high-rise buildings, and it's going to happen on September 11th, early in the morning, like right before you start work. And I got up that morning, and I told we had a guest at the house, and I told my husband, and I called my husband back at work 2 hours later at work, and I said, I got more input. I said, it's like a United Airlines or American Airlines, and they're going right into these two towers that are identical. I should have thought of the word Twin Towers, but I didn't know there was a Twin Towers. And what I did was I kept giving all these details, and they said, "You are crazy." I said, no, it's going to happen on this date and this year and this time. And I said, it's such a high rise that the planes can literally dip down and go into the buildings. And then my husband was on speakerphone, and all these coworkers of my husband were saying, "Oh my God, she's crazy. She's crazy." And I said, "It's going to happen in 2 years on this date." Well, the morning that it happened, all these people started calling my husband, and it was really amazing. They go, "Oh my God, we thought she was crazy. I guess she wasn't." So every once in a while, when I have a prediction, like Christopher Robinson, who is a specialist with Scotland Yard, he uses his predictions and gives information, that kind of thing. So I think that you can use every talent that you have, but here in America, we have to prove everything we say or do. And I mean, Mark, you've got a background in radio, and I'm sure people say before you would do a radio show, well, what's your background or what's your expertise? Irene, fortunately, does not have the same problem. It's get her in here, let's do the job, and see how she does.
Well, that's it, you see. I'm not saying that other psychics over here don't have to prove themselves. Maybe some do. And what you do by telling people or making a record of what you've actually seen is good. But you see, I don't need to do that because nobody knows what I do.
Yeah. Well, I'm to the point where now, because of my age and because of so much work behind me, I'm ready to start writing books and writing articles and that kind of thing. So I'm ready for that. I mean, I still continue doing my work and my predictions, but because of the caseload I've worked on here in America, And Mark, I did do a case in a town in the Caribbean. I'll have to get the name of it, but I helped find a missing Russian executive. And the problem with my work is Nevis. Have you ever heard of the Caribbean?
Is this where you had to find Anton Tower? Who was it? Taramasic?
Yeah, it's a funny name. Anton Tomacek or something like that. He was a Russian executive.
It's actually Anton Taramasic.
Yeah, it's a really funny name. Tomazic. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote a book on it. Mm-hmm. Yep. The problem with my work is that it's a double-edged sword in America, and what happens is they called and hired me, meaning the hotel, had their missing client or guest, and said, hey, can you find this missing man? They originally thought my dad did the work, but I do all the missing people work.
Sorry, Jeanette. Wasn't he a Slovakian?
He might have been. He might have been.
Yeah, I think he was a Slovakian, and he wrote books on freedom and things like this.
Mm-hmm, very opinionated. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But what was interesting is the hotel called, and they paid for the services to locate the man. Yeah. And the hotel, I hate to say this, they faxed us a map. I work for maps. They faxed us a map of the whole island, and I said, I'm getting something right here. And I had to give a bunch of details, and they were written up in the book. And the hotel messed up a little bit, and instead of going to that particular area, they went to a different area. And so they searched the second area versus the area I mentioned. And then she went back to her original notes and the map I sent, and she said, oh, my God, it was the wrong location. So they sent a helicopter out and went around the area. And I said, he fell in a hole. He fell in a cave or a hole. And who knew? In the Caribbean, I guess, Mark, you were just there. Did you get to go mountain climbing or cave hunting or anything like that?
In the island?
In Barbados?
No, I spent a lot of time at the swim-up pool bar.
Oh, nice. Nice.
No, I didn't get a chance to do that. I mean, I did take a tour, explore the island, of course, did some snorkeling. Mm-hmm. I know they have the caverns and caves there, but I didn't get a chance to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, this poor man went hiking, and he had told his wife before he went hiking, oh, I'm going to go hiking. If anything happens to me and I don't return, call a dowser. And if you can't find one in Europe or the Caribbean, call America. They've got, a dowsing association, and they'll find me. And, I pinpointed the site, and unfortunately they went to the wrong site. And then a few days later, they finally went back with the helicopter, and he heard it over top of him. And because he fell into a cave, what had happened was he became paralyzed, and he was in 110 heat, to my knowledge. And so eventually the paralysis stopped, and because he kept hearing the helicopter, he climbed out of the cave and crawled down to the street, and he was found down in town, close to town, and scurried off to the hospital. And they said in the book everything I said was accurate and on target, and even his body wounds, I'm a little weird. Because I think of the near death, I can pick up body reactions from pain, or if you got hit in the head, I'll say, oh, Mark, you got hit in the head, or, oh, Mark, you had a previous car accident, or that kind of thing. And I can talk about the parts of your body that had a reaction. There's a batting with that. I could say, oh, well, in 3 years, you're going to have a foot problem and break an ankle, and it's going to be your right ankle, and because of blah, blah, blah. And it's just the way my delivery is. I try to be gentle and kind to people on my delivery, like the British. I think the British are a little bit more kinder or gentler.
But, don't believe it. Don't believe it. We can be right hardball, sis.
Well, sometimes people need to hear it in a rough direction. They really do.
Yeah.
So, Mark, have you ever dealt with my specialty is I do missing persons, missing objects.
Yes.
I was written up in the Smithsonian Magazine for finding 2 missing objects for the author of the magazine article on dowsing. I have been known to find over more than 20 missing persons. I do love it. I'm like a hound where I track people, or I use different techniques.
I tell you what, Jeanette, what I want to know is, how did you find Al Capone's treasure?
Do you want that story, or
yeah? When Geraldo,
because you still do treasure hunting, don't you?
I do. I just found a gold ring out of 6 acres a month and a half ago. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Well, you found it when Geraldo Rivera could not.
I did. It was a total fluke. I mean, I'm speechless because I wish I had I wish I had called him and said, "Hey, listen, they found it, some of the treasure." But the problem with treasure hunters are they are very closed, and they don't like sharing their find. And I believe they don't report everything they find. I just had a client who found a coin. He thought it was worth $30,000. The auctioneer said it was worth $90,000. I mean, wow, big difference. On my Al Capone case, I don't know about Irene, but I like going to the conventions and learning from some of the other psychics or teachers or famous people. I got to a conference in Chicago, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to learn from a couple of these people. There were 2 guys, I think, that had near-death experiences. One, I think, was John, who'd been hit by lightning, and somebody else. And Ingo Swann, I think, was there. And we'd gotten to Chicago. Took too long to get there from Virginia, so we missed the Ingo Swann lecture. But I did get to meet Ingo Swann personally. I was like, oh my God! And he actually encouraged me. He said, "You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. You're gonna do this." I said, well, gosh, thank you. And he said, "You're going to be very successful. Keep going." I said, okay, because you never know. You know, it's like trying to become a good chef. You're either the best or you just stink at it. I mean, I'm not the greatest chef, so that's how I view it. But on the Al Capone treasure, it was simple. I was had heard about my work and that I locate missing objects and treasure and that kind of thing. And he said, listen, I'm working on several treasures. I'd like to get a personal reading. So, you know, the standard, let's do your personal reading. And I don't charge much. So in America, I charge $150. From the UK, I charge $200 for a personal reading. Boom, done, easy. You get in, you get out, you're done. Now on treasure, I break it up, and I said, okay, so you want me to find the missing treasure. So he brought me a bunch of maps, and he goes, which treasure should I work on? So let's say he had 5 treasures, 5 different maps. And I said, you know, and I was touching the maps, and one of the maps stuck to my hand. I said, this one. So he pulled it out, and he goes, well, this is one of like 10 maps. And I said, well, what's on it? And he said, well, I'll tell you what happened. Al Capone robbed a government payroll truck and of gold, silver, everything. And what he did was he broke it up. Each person or party involved got a piece of the action. And his best buddy, which was the worst guy out of all of his friends, was Ray Nitty, Nitty. And if your listeners want to look him up, the guy was frightening. He was the one who would torture people. He had the baseball bat and everything. Not a nice guy.
I'm familiar with Ray Nitty.
What was that, Mark?
I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, people wrote books about him. I mean, just what a monster. Anyway, so Ray Nitty took his portion from Al, and Ray had this thing for pancakes. So about 6 to 10 hours from, I'm guesstimating, from Chicago. He buried his treasure, some of his portions of the robbery, on a property where he would go to a bed and breakfast. And he buried over 60 bars of silver stamped saying Federal U.S. Government. And that's the picture that I sent you, my dad holding it. And I guess my dad was given a silver bar. And anyway, so we had all these maps. So let's say we had 10 maps. So I got to pick out the map that I said, let's search this one. Let me find the road closest to the treasure. let me find the tree closest to the treasure. Let me do a radius, just like the cops do, or they pick a radius when somebody goes missing or there's a robbery, and you say, don't go beyond this little radius. And I said, max. And when the machine went crazy, because they used high-tech equipment, not a dog on this particular case, they dug and they ran into the top part of a car, a 1920s car, which they thought was weird, because why out of the middle of nowhere would the top of a 1920s car be sitting there? And they called me, because I have to sit by the phone when they go out treasure hunting, and I have to say, go left, go right, go north, get, footage, everything. And they said, well, you hit the top of a car. I said, no, keep going. Something's not right. And they tore out the top of the car, and they put the machine back down into the dirt, and that was like 2 more feet. And the machine just kept going crazy. So they dug 4 feet and found over 60 bars of silver robbed by Al and his buddy Ray.
So this machine...
It was the older machine. It looks like a lawnmower, or it looks like they used both the lawnmower one that it's on TV recently with Josh Gates going to England.
Oh, one of those that looks deep down into the ground and it can see archaeological stuff. Is that the one?
Yeah, it's a penetrator.
Oh, the ground GPR, ground penetrating radar. Yes, I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah, and they have another one too they used at the same location. So that's how they knew something was not quite right. They used this. It's really weird. It looks like a picture frame, but it's larger. So it's like 4 feet by 4 feet, and they they walk it, along they do a grid, and that location. So it was a second part of a location. They double checked it, and that thing was the similar thing, ground penetrating radar, and it reacted, and that's when they found the top of the car hood. But the era was correct. It was like 1920 something, and so that was a perfect match. And that's what they were going to stop digging. I said, no, get back in there. There's something else there. And when they did it, they were like, that's weird. Why are we getting this reaction? So I mean, that's a lot of silver. But the take on me, and what makes me a little different on the internet is, I tell people, you've got treasure, you've got history in your hand. Why not take it to the media? Why not take it to a movie producer, do a movie about the whole thing? You'll make a lot more money on a movie deal than you will on the treasure itself. Plus, you could sell it to investors, or you could have it at a museum and say, hey, look what I did. I'm going after more treasure. But they refused, which happens all the time. I mean, I'm doing some casework right now. Train robberies. I'm doing train robberies right now out west. And I think we're going to end up finding some Pinkerton stuff, which is super. I guess my frustration is they don't want a movie. They just want the find. They don't want to share. They're very selfish. Irene, have you worked on any treasure work yet?
No, I haven't. I'm afraid. No,
you haven't.
I've thought about it, and I did send you a list once, Mark, didn't I? I made a list, all treasure going back, all the mysterious missing treasure in this in Europe going back. Never mind. Forget it. No, I haven't. Not yet.
You haven't. Yeah, no. There's some great books out there that people, in case you want to go after treasure, they're called, like 101 mysterious finds that have never been solved, or mysterious mysteries that have never been found.
Yeah, Jeanette, there's been a lot of treasure, a lot of hoards found over in this country in fields, and one thing's Roman hoards. But it belongs to the government. You do get a percentage of it, but you do have to hand it in.
You do. My dad worked for a man over there, and he found, I think, a couple million in coinage. But, we didn't hear from him again. That's the quandary. When you work for treasure hunters, sometimes, that's why I like to get my money up front. I'll say, oh, it's this much money, it's this much money, because they'll say, well, why don't I give you a percentage rate? They never end up giving you the percentage rate they promise. They just...
they do over here. many people have found, like I said, many people have found hoards and things, and they have got their percentage from the government, but it belongs to the,
the government.
It belongs to the country. That's it. And it ends up in the British Museum or wherever.
Well, see, the thing about treasures, a lot of people are not aware of the fact that if you're on private property, you have to get permission. If you're on private property, you have to get contracts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some people just, I'm just going to go dig.
No, you can't. If somebody come digging in my garden, they'd be buried in it, I tell you.
There you go. Okay, Mark, does this mean we can come to your backyard and go look?
Well, I look out my back bedroom window every day down onto the garden, and there is a shape under the lawn. And I am begging and praying that one day, if ever I pull that lawn up, I'm going to find a Roman villa.
You never know. You never know. Take that metal detector and, you'll find it, I'm sure.
Jeanette, it'll more than likely be a pigsty, but still, can always hope, can't you?
Bloody Romans.
I'd rather not find a pigsty. Ooh. that smell will be in your nose forever.
No. It could be a pigsty. It could be the ruins of a pigsty because for the simple reason this was farmland, and I think there was pigs on this somewhere along this area, on the property somewhere. So that's more than likely what's under my lawn. It's more likely the ruined walls of a pigsty. But I would love it to be a Roman villa. I really would.
I would rather have a villa. That would be nice.
A nice mosaic floor and everything, But there you go. That's my luck. Yep. Anyway, no, I haven't done any treasure hunting. It's not something I've really thought a lot about. I did give it, after we spoke the last time, I did cross my mind. And I did make a list of all these lost treasures in Europe. And I'm not sure whether I sent them to you or not, Mark.
No, you never did.
Oh, and maybe because I wanted to keep it all to myself then.
I'm sure some people do,
I just haven't got round to it, I don't even know where the list is now, to tell you the truth.
I hear you. So, Mark, what would you like to know about my background? Do you want to talk about some of my more famous casework? Would that interest you?
I think obviously the one case that I'm most familiar with that I wouldn't mind hearing more about is, of course, the Kaylee Anthony case. Now, for those people, and I'll admit I don't remember all the details of it. I just know that the Casey Anthony case a few years ago was very big news in the U.S. about the mother in Florida. Her daughter went missing, and turns out she was killed accidentally. And the mother was out partying, and now they took her to court. She was found not guilty, but she's pretty much vilified because she just didn't care. And of course, her daughter was missing for a long time. So tell me about your experience.
This is something that really hasn't been big over here. So it would be good if you could emphasize on that a little bit more.
Sure. Basically, I was wrapped up in family and activities, and somebody called me and said, "Hey, can you work on this little toddler case in Orlando?" And what had happened was a decomposition, a dead body in the back of a car, and her daughter had rented a car, a white car, and said, "No, I don't know what that is. It's pizza or trash and junk like that." The Casey Anthony case is really, really complicated. There was a lot more to it than people thought. What had happened was the young girl had a toddler. I guess the baby was 2 going on 3 or 2, age 2-ish, okay? And the mom was very indifferent. Now, a lot of people don't know, but some of the drugs going around in Florida, I mean, they're so bad. They're off the charts. I don't want to say it's like it causes temporary brain damage, or it causes permanent brain damage. It changes the fuses in your brain from connecting. It's really tragic. And so some of the people become very detached once they're on these drugs. And this girl, Casey Anthony, became very detached with her 2-year-old daughter, and she lived with her parents, and she let them take care of her. And one day, I guess several days, she never came home with her daughter, and like her mother was like, "Where's my granddaughter?" Demanding her, which I don't blame her. She was taking care of her most of the time, and she goes, "I don't know." So it's basically, instead of the trail of tears, it's the trail of lies. Lie after lie after lie from this girl. And I think that's why America was so pissed at her. They just were fed up with all the lies. Where's the baby? Stop talking, and where's the baby? If you know where the baby is, something. When I was first called, I was called within a month after the little toddler went missing. And I told them where the body was, exactly where I told them months later in October. And they said, "There's no way, she's right there." And I said, are you kidding me? She's right there. So I think what had happened the first 30 days was the baby was being moved here and there and here and there. And the baby was also put in a bag, from what I hear later, which I had told the PI that you're looking for maybe trash bags, but also a bag that was like a laundry bag that you, like here in America, you can take your laundry to a laundromat in like a Navy bag, like in the British take it to a laundromat, and instead of a laundry basket, you take it in a bag. And apparently she was put in a trash bag, and then a laundry bag. And the tragedy was a lot of the details I gave were all correct, but because some questionable people that were involved, in fact, one of the people was, I guess I got the impression, a British or a Cockney citizen, whatever you want to call him. He moved to America. He was a builder, lost his company supposedly. I don't know the correct information on it. He got into PI work, so he says. Well, in Florida, and I know this because I'm a former PI, you have to work as a cop and then become a PI and get your license, or you work under the auspices of the license of an attorney. So he decided he was going to help an attorney find the missing baby, and they kept on and on and on about the story. And the tragedy was that one day I got a phone call, and one of the contact who brought the case to me came by my house and said, "Oh, the PI wants to talk to you." I said, "He can't be a PI if he doesn't have a license number," because I was a former PI. So I said, "Well, where's his license number? I wanted to validate it." And they said, "Oh, he doesn't have a license number. He's working under the auspices of an attorney." I said, "Okay, there you go. So you can't legally be called a PI." And I know that sounds stupid, but to simply say you're a PI gave me a twink in my head. Be careful, be careful, be careful. And so I thought that was strange. I mean, Irene, I'm sure you've worked with people and they go, "Oh, I'm a cop." Really? Where do you work out of? I don't. Well, then how could you be called a cop? It's total baloney. So
there are quite a few of them. There's, we've got coppers that they say, they worked, they were policemen. They turn out to be transport policemen or something, which they are correct. They are really policemen, but their ground that they cover is only on the network, the transport network. And if anything was to happen on the street, then they have to be invited by a proper policeman, a metropolitan policeman or something, to help make an arrest or something. They can't just few of them.
It's a process. Well, you do have to be careful who calls you. I mean, I got a call, a guy called him Mr. Smith, but it was really Luke Phillips. Luke had talked to and made a phone call to the PI, supposed PI, and he had called because he had spoken with her because my father was so famous. He's like, "Mr. Matasha, can you teach me how to find missing people?" And my father conveyed to him, "Let me tell you again, I don't do that work. Jeanette does it." No, I want to do this. The same old broken record. Jeanette does it. Jeanette does it. Jeanette does it. Some of us cooking oatmeal and some of us cooking pie. My dad didn't like cooking pie. Okay, that's period. So I got tired of body work, so I sort of disappeared with my family. And then months later, subject of the with a little girl, and I'll zero in and see if I can select a site again. Well, the same site came up, and I said, look, she's, you go here, you go here, you go here, and I see suburban, and you go behind a house, there's this thing called pavers. And in America, pavers are like a stone for a driveway. And so I said, there's 3 pavers there, because I said the house was abandoned, and there's 3 pavers back there. There could be a fence. If there isn't a fence, just keep going back in the woods, and you're going to smell something weird, or you're going to pick up what looks like trash, and it could be bones of the body, and that's where she is. And it turns out that the street name was Suburban, which I didn't know. And there was a lot of incorrect media attention on this case where they say, oh, we sent her a map. I'm going to say this. Damn it, they didn't send me anything. They sent me the darn teddy bear. That's the only thing they sent me. To get information out of them was very difficult. The only thing I had was who, this is what I do when I find missing objects or persons, is who, the mother, who the mother is, who the missing victim is, where, she was missing from supposedly Orlando, and when. And I was told she was missing from an apartment complex, not the house. And I said, well, that's weird. None of this makes sense. So a lot of times as a psychic or a dowser, you have to redefine the information. All right. And, later in the radio show at the end, I want to tell you one story that will help people understand when you do a missing person, missing object, or anything. You separate whether it's a homicide or a missing person. Ignore who did it, focus in on where the missing person is, and then you can solve the homicide. Now, of course, you have your homicide detectives. That's great, but keep them separate from each other within reason. On that particular case, I kept giving details, and the PI never called the cops and told him he was talking to me. He knew all the information. He took 2 or 3 more days to go down there and look for the body. And he finally went there, and his friend videotaped it. And once they videotaped it, nothing happened. And they never told the media or the there at that time in October or the media lady. And I said, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a psychic, and I worked on the Kaylee Anthony case. Let's go down there and see if she's there, because I think she's right there. And the lady goes, what? And she goes, what are you talking about? And I told her the scenario, and she goes, are you kidding me? And I said, no. And what was very interesting, when I was on the phone with the PI, the supposed PI, he said that he couldn't move around too much because there were too many snakes. Of course, that could be the scenario. That really could be. Orlando has lots of poisonous snakes. Yeah. And so she called him, and he goes, yeah, I went down there. She took me down there. And then guess what? So the whole gig is up. He had to go down there with the media. She told the cops went there, and her remains were sitting right there. And you know what? If I hadn't have done that, I think those jerks would have continued on with, I don't know where she is. I don't know where she is. And they're wasting everybody's time and emotion, So
it could have taken a find her body, yeah. But the day you belonged to the little girl that you used full psychometry on.
I did.
You picked up your sense through the teddy bear. Mm.
But in June, I guess about suburban, the PI knew the town, knew it was suburban. And every time I talked to them, they kept coming up with another scenario, which was very suspicious, because they even brought up, well, the family that abandoned the house are over here. And I said, yeah, but I don't. So they kept saying, well, Casey's says she's with that family. I said, well, then tell the cops. And there was such non-cooperation. It was so bad. That's why this whole case, it was in the news again. It's ridiculous. Move on. Let's find other missing people. I haven't gone public on all the cases I've done. I'm just about to go public because I'm going to jump back into lecturing and going on radio and so forth. I was the psychic that pinpointed where Chandra Levy was located in D.C. And I met the wife of the guy that wrote the book about it, and he had no idea I worked with the FBI on it and the community and so forth. You know, a lot of times people think, well, how could she do that from her home? Well,
yeah.
You're a psychic, Irene. You probably do lots of stuff from your home and talk to people on the phone.
Yeah, I don't call myself a psychic. I'm a grandmother, everybody. Yeah. I'm just a grandmother, that does. What I was going to say to you, over here, you know, if you do any work for the police or anything like that, it's a closed case. Nobody gets to know about it, whether it's government or whether it's the police. Mm-hmm. You keep quiet, they keep quiet. They don't want to let people know that they've used a psychic or whatever, you know. So even if you're doing any work for the church, you know, as far as it's just shut up. Everything's just shut up and kept quiet.
Yeah.
But it's more open out there, isn't it? Like you say, you've done work with the FBI, you know. This sort of thing does happen over here. It does happen over here. They do use us, but they don't like anyone to know. So we don't say anything, they don't say anything, and that's the way it goes. Everyone lives happily ever after.
It's very complicated. I think it's great to say, yes, we use the psychic, but in my field here in America, in order to get better paying jobs, for example, if I get a buried treasure job, it can pay for my charity work. And sometimes on some of my casework, it's charity work. And people think, oh, she took money for this or she took money for that. And that's all incorrect. It's too funny. It's like, seriously? Really? Where's the proof? Where's the paycheck? Where's this? Where's that?
Yeah.
I have a woman who is saying stuff about me on the internet that never some of this stuff never happened, and they can't prove it because it didn't happen. And they go, well, it was so many years ago. No, it never happened, and they can't provide a receipt. So I have to document everything, and I find that it pays off. And I keep a lot of my receipts and my tushes covered, as they say. But there are some fun jobs. I mean, Irene, I don't know if you've ever tried locating oil. I've located oil. That was fun.
No, I haven't. But getting back to, before we go on to that part of it, but getting back to what we were saying just now, you know, I'm quite happy that it's all kept quiet over here. I am, that is really does please me, because I'm not one of these type of people that want to come out in the open anyway. So if I get work or if somebody phones me up and says, okay, this child's gone missing or this has happened, one thing or another, what can you say about it? Or what can we do? Where's this going, Irene, or whatever? That's it. I tell them the answer, or if I've got the answer, I'll tell them the answer. Finito. We just move on with our lives, go separate ways again until the next time.
Mark has probably seen this in America, that the reason that I try to push my background is that I'm trying to show that there's some authentic psychics out there. That we do consistently find missing people, treasure, oil, you know, have great dreams, that kind of thing. So it's your choice what you want to be private on. It's your choice on, which I think is great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really, really do want to be private on it all. You know, I've admitted now that I do work, but I would never go to the point of admitting just how much work I do and who I do it for. You know, but there you go.
Which is fine too. I mean, people have called here and said, "Hey, did you work on this case or that case?" If it was one I want to talk about, sure, I'll talk about it. I had a drug dealing case in the Midwest and one in Oregon. And they're all drug dealers, and I have been scared to death to talk about it because right now we're trying to find the remains in Oregon. In Tennessee, I was accurate. But when it comes to druggies, it's too frightening. It's just, I'd rather just take a back seat. So.
Well, this is it. You don't want to get involved in anything like that because it's money to them, you know, and if you take away their money and their income, which is their drugs, if they get caught or anything, they're going to come looking for the one that's caused all the problems in their eyes, and that's you. You know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Some things can definitely happen. Well, I do work on happy things too, and I'm sure you do too, which is great. I mean, I've been told I've been correct on people in their relationships and heard about happy marriages, which is great. And I do the silly things like people have missing cats and dogs. I think that's a blast because they have a pattern, and you can always tell where they are by their pattern, which is totally fun.
Do you know something? When the fields and look for them, because I am so uptight at losing them. It's devastating.
Sure, emotionally, sure.
Yeah, emotionally. Yeah. When it affects you emotionally, then it is very hard to do the legwork.
Oh, absolutely. When it comes to, for example, treasure, I don't do the field work most of the time. I mean, 20% of the time I'll go out on some treasure work. Right now, this summer in August, I have some treasure work I want to go out on because I want to be there when they find it because it's so fantastic. It's so old. It's like 1700s. And in fact, it's both are British. One is Spanish. And if we find it, it would be just historically a wow factor. Yeah. Mark, do you do any treasure hunting with a metal detector on the beach or because you're up in Jersey, or you're sit back and relax Barbados like you did today?
No, I don't do treasure hunting, mainly because it's so overpopulated where I live here in New Jersey. If there's anything here, somebody would have found a long time ago. And the only hunting I do is my paranormal investigations, ghosts and whatever. Which leads me to ask you a question. Have you ever, has anybody ever asked you to try to find, let's say, some type of cryptid creature like Bigfoot to prove that they exist?
I just got an email on that, but they haven't called yet. And, when you something like a missing cat or should be no difference in looking for Bigfoot. And I stirred up some controversy on the internet when I said that. And some women wrote me a note, they're supposed to be aliens and invisible and so forth. And I said, yeah, but check this out. I said, if you're looking for Bigfoot, you go where he eats, you go where he sleeps, you go where his siblings are, you go where he's meeting the other Bigfoot. I mean, he's got a same pattern because if you're traveling from Maine to South Carolina, aren't you going to find that, I'm safe in this location, I'm safe in this location? I said, why don't you do that? And they go, that doesn't happen. We humans are very consistent. This is a mammal. It could be the same way. So I did get an email where calling me about pinpointing where Bigfoot is. And I'd do it in a heartbeat if I'm right. That's just another tab on my resume. She pinpointed where Bigfoot climbs all the time. Especially if you find a family of big feet, big feet, Bigfoot, whatever. I mean, holy heck. I mean, that'd be great. You see them all sitting there eating their raspberries, and they're like, wait a minute, you found our restaurant. Get away.
Well, we have our local Bigfoot here where I live in northern New Jersey. They call him Big Red Eye. And he's seen on occasion. I know a guy right now who doesn't live too far from here he's been having a lot of Bigfoot activity on his property. So I have an invitation to go up there when I get some free time to go check it out for myself. But some of these things. Well, here's another question for you. Other than like looking for maybe a cryptid animal, have you ever been asked to look into something very highly unusual, either very strange or secretive? Let's say like an Area 51, or a government facility like the Dulce base.
Well, I don't know how I do it, but I will tell you, I was at a UFO conference in San Diego, many moons ago, and they said, well, you're that psychic. You've had 3 near-death experiences. Tell us when we can pinpoint the next UFO sighting and make sure it's a big one so we can videotape it. And I said, sure. I mean, I do this all the time, so why not? Give it a shot. And I said, okay, so I feel like I'm in Arizona. So I said, Arizona. I said, I'm given a date. And they said, really? And I said, October 8th. And I said, you need to be there October 7th. You spend the night at the hotel. the UFO is coming out between this hour and this hour. So I'll give a time frame. It's no different than a water well because I locate water wells. And I said, this sounds really silly. There's a man in the crowd. He's driving this really old-looking station wagon, which is the remote. I said, he's with this little white dog. But his station wagon is old or vintage. And that man is going to catch it, and he's going to catch it on film. And everybody started laughing. And I think there were about 300 people in the class or the room. And I said, what's so funny? And they go, actually, one of our UFO MUFON researchers right here, that's our guy. He drives this old station wagon. He has a little white dog. I said, well, go there. And it went on the internet. He was there, and he caught it on film. I can pick up specific dates. Why, I don't know. I don't know some kind of feel for it. When I can actually get dates, names, and that kind of thing. I'm trying to think of something. For example, like when I was telling you about 9/11, I got the date September 11. It's going to happen in the morning, Twin Towers. I said it'll be in the media and the newspaper on the 12th. So I said, so if I'm wrong, it's on the 12th. So I said, what we do is, my plan was be there the day before, be there, hours before the UFO shows up, be there the next day at the same time, have your camera ready, make sure you have film, make sure you have batteries, and you're going to be on the money. And this man in the station wagon and little Toto is going to be on the money, and he was. On that particular one, I think they had more than one UFO, though, which was really super cool. Because if you said to me, hey, can you find it? Yes, I can, but you don't want to find one that's there for 10 seconds. That's terrible. I know Mexico has tons of them show up. So if they have this huge one showing up, and, I don't know about you, but when they're as big as a stadium, it freaks me out. I would prefer to say, let's find the biggest one possible, or let's find where, like in Chongqing, Chongqing, China, a few days ago, they just had a whole bunch of UFOs hovering around for quite a while, and it made people there nervous. I understand. I think that was the 21st, and it's the 27th to 21st, and then Oklahoma had a bunch. So if I said, oh yeah, you want to pick up a crew or like 5 different UFOs, same thing altogether. Excuse me. That would be the way to do it in my mind. How about you, Mark? Yes, I've been asked to do it, and I was on the money, and I was happy about it. I'd rather be right than wrong, and I'm not always right. And I'll tell you right up front, I don't get anything. I'm working on a 35-year-old case job right now. I'm getting the information. I'm talking to the dead guy, but I haven't pinpointed his remains yet. And it's really hard.
What's this? A cold case? It's a cold case. Yeah. Yeah.
And they originally thought he was going to be at a different location. I said, no, go back here. And I also used the compass method. I used the north and south, east and west method. I used the ruler method. I mean, you name it, I used it. I mean, people can read up about my father. I went a little further out and started adding more methods. I have a student that I'm teaching her now. I have like 3 or 4 of them. I'm teaching that a process of, see, I don't just say, oh, here's my opinion. I like to assess what I'm picking up. And then I say, okay, we need to look for this, even though we're in the right town. So let's say we're in Phoenix, Arizona. I said, go to Phoenix, Arizona, go to this particular street, just like I did on the Anthony case. And I said, suburban. Well, they all knew it was suburban. So let's say there was a suburban street in Arizona. You go to suburban street, and then you do all the markers and the radius, and you start searching. It's a little different with treasure. It's a little different because you have to deal with the depth and that kind of thing. On UFOs, my personal opinion is, if you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get the correct answers. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you think, Irene, but if somebody asks me a question, oh, will I find true love? Are you freaking kidding me? Let's hope you do, but why would you say true love? Why don't you say, am I going to find an honorable husband, or am I going to find an honorable husband in the next 5 years?
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I don't bother with things like that. So if someone came up to me and asked me if they were going to find true love, I'd say, how do I know? And I'll just walk off. I won't waste my time with it. Because
it's funny. Yeah, and people...
My job is slightly different. Mm. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can understand that. That's difficult because different depths of love, I believe.
Oh, absolutely.
So many different types of love. The only, to me, true love is my children. That is true love.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what if somebody comes up and they want to know, am I going to find true love? And you go, yes, but what you see is they get a dog.
Yeah. Yeah,
but you could say, oh, your true love is going to be a dog. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. I had a woman who came in for an appointment, which was hilarious. And I said, you're on the search for a husband. And she goes, yeah. And she goes, I'm 32 and I'm really worried. I'm not going to have kids in time, yada, yada. And I said, well, this sounds really weird, but are you looking on the internet, not the internet, the newspapers? At that time, it was first newspapers, the internet. And she goes, yeah. And I said, well, I'm sitting here and I'm hearing this man go, gah, gah, gah. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, he's guttural. He's German. You're going to marry a German guy. You're going to live happily ever after. And he lives with his mom, so you'll have to take care, the mom. You're going to have to help her. I said, but he's wonderful. He's an engineer, and these are his initials. And she goes, you're kidding. I said, no. And once you meet him, he's so wonderful. He just oozes Mr. Wonderful. And she met 3 German men. And the first one, she goes, he doesn't have those initials. The second one had a similar initial, but only, like if I said IGH, the second one had an H. And I said, no, that's not the guy. But I said, go out with him. Let's see what happens. And she goes, no, it didn't click. And the third one, she said his initials were like IGH. And they went out and she goes, oh my God, Jeanette, this guy is just too darn nice. She goes, I can't pass this up.
But he lives with his mother. Great. Run.
What was that?
I said he lives with his mother. Run.
No, it could be he's a mama's boy and he's just a sweet guy. There are some sweet guys out there. It depends on how much you want them to be sweet or masculine. I mean, they don't have to be, pansies, or do you want a pansy? Some women want a pansy. I have a client.
Some people like that, yeah. Everybody's different. Everyone to their own taste. That's what I'd say. But Jeanette, you also worked on UFO abduction cases.
I've never worked on those. No, yeah. I mean I read about them, but I've never worked on it. I know you guys have a big guy there, Russ Kellett or something, that said he was abducted. No, I do a lot of ghost investigations. That's fine. They're fun. They're same old stuff. I don't do demonology, but on UFO abduction, that's not me. Now, there are 2 other Ginettes out there, so there could be some confusion.
Maybe the reporters got it wrong.
Oh, of course they could have. Yeah, my married name is Lucas, like, St. Lucas or whatever. But, no, I don't. I have never worked on an abduction case. I think they're complicated. I think they're super complicated. I always sit back and say, let me read up on it. I mean, personally, I'm not a PhD in psychology, and I do think that some of these people have been abducted. Friends of mine were CIA linked. Some of my father's friends were CIA. And he goes, yeah, they were abducted. It is what it is. Other people make up a story. Other people, the jury is out, I've worked on a variety of things.
Okay. What about these 3 near-death experiences you've had? Do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah. For you, because I'll just do it.
No. I'm curious because, like you said, you've had near-death experiences. Many psychics that have had near-death experiences. That's what kickstarted being psychic in the first place. Before that, they were just average. But sorry, people, I don't mean to say it like that. Nobody's average, but it really enhanced whatever gift or hidden ability that they had. So,
absolutely. I do think it makes some of us very. Yeah, I promote Kelly Michelle Walsh. She's over in England, and I promote her book a lot because, first of all, her book is already out, and she committed suicide, and she came back. She was forced to come back. I'll just say this. It's a great book. Each chapter covers a different person having a near-death. I was invited to be in the book, but I was just too sick at the time with pneumonia. I couldn't even lift the pen. But at this point, I'll just say little blurbs about each of my experiences. They were all three different, which is really, I just find weird. But my first one was around age 7, and I got sliced open in the head by barbed wire, and I guess I passed out. I was put in a bed, and I do recall laying there crying, and these two people came to me and said, "We are your real fathers, father and mother, and you were our child, but not our child." And I was like, "What?" And they said, so they talked about reincarnation. They were wearing ministry outfits, and I was being shown that I was from China originally, and that they said your whole life will change. They were giving me information about my future. They said your whole life will change when you're 27. And I said, okay. And they gave me a lot of information, which was really interesting. And they said something that was super weird. And they said, your father is your grandfather from a previous life. And they took me through the process and said, in Japan, when you were there, because you were Japanese at that time, he was teaching you how to read and write, and suddenly you got killed. And I remember living on the top of a hill, and I remember my grandfather teaching me how to read and write. But what's funny is that he's teaching me how to read and write, and in this life he taught me dowsing. So I think that's really interesting. They said I didn't get to finish what I was supposed to do, and I was like, okay. But the thing about the reincarnation I thought was interesting is they showed me a bunch of information. And the other thing that was super interesting is they said my parents were not my parents. And they told me, go ahead and call your parents by their names. And so I started calling my mom and dad Louis and Francis. And my siblings followed suit, which was really funny. So people were around us and they go, where's your mom and dad? And I said, Louis is my dad. I mean, I've been to lectures with him. I said, hey, Louis, come on. And instead, not like when I'm with him privately, I'll say, hey, Daddy, come on, or whatever. But typically it's, hey, Louis, come on. With my mom, we are not close. She was very detached from me, very uncomfortable with me. And I'm one of 5, and it is what it is. So I always called her Francis. So I moved on from the accident, didn't really think much of it. By the time I was 27, I went into the hospital, and I had kidney failure. And I died in the hospital and had a near-death experience. And that would take lucky theater. And I asked him a bunch of questions, like him about different things from Jesus. We have a large quantity of a Muslim community. And I was just super curious about the different religions and the reactions and so forth. And so he gave me quite an input on religion and all that kind of stuff. So we talked religion. I did ask the dumb question, what is your take on gays? And he said, these are all my children. I love all my children. And I did say to him, during the process, I said, I think I want to go home. I said, what can I do for you? And he said, I want you to bring my people home. And I said, what do you mean your people? And he goes, missing people. I want you to bring them home. So he gave me a mission. I've talked to other people, and he gave them a mission. What I thought was really interesting when I was in line to go talk to our creator, I was told that in front of me was a doctor, and I saw the coat, and another person, and they told me mega information about the future and what was to be had, which I thought was really interesting. And let me think. So they warned me about a third near death. To be careful, be careful. And,
sorry about a third what? I didn't catch that.
The third near death?
Oh, third death. Yeah.
So they did tell me about the third near death. The third near death happened when I was like 37. I was on the operating table. I had a tumor, and they had to take it out, and I flatlined on the So I mean, it is what it is. I'm here. I didn't sue the doctor that lost me. The other doctor told me that I died on the operating table, and are you mad at me? And I said, no, I'm here. Happy to be here. And I do appreciate life a lot more.
Yeah.
And I rarely get pissed at people. I will say, I hate to use that word. I appreciate people more.
Yeah.
I rarely criticize people. There are a few things I don't like. I don't like it when men are verbally abusive to their wives or vice versa. There's quite a few things I don't like. I mean, I don't like it, but we have to tolerate certain things, It is what it is.
I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
But I mean, I'm more mellow. I don't know about other near-death experiencers, but I definitely think I'm more mellow. So from the experience, the last near-death experience that was really bizarre was when I was dying on the operating table and floating up. These women in white came to me and were pushing me back in my body.
She's trying to escape. Don't let her go.
Yeah, pretty much. And first it was one woman, then another woman. Then, it turned out to be like 8 women pushing me back down. And I heard this person talking to them, telling them to push me back in my body. But what was fascinating was it was a foreign language. And what was even more fascinating, they warned me about a couple of things, and then they told me something was coming forward, and about the world, the life, and that kind of thing. They told me about some kind of musical thing. And I just thought for the first time, let's see, I was 37 when I had that third death. So they told me about this music. Watch for this music, and that's the timing of when things are going to change. And I just saw it for the first time in my life on YouTube. It was these women singing, and they sounded just like the women on the operating table. And just excuse my singing. And she goes, blah, 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 blah. And it sounded very similar. I thought, well,
that sounds a bit like me in the kitchen.
There you go. But they did talk about music being used as healing. They talked about a brilliant man coming forward to change the world. And I know, I've seen him already. I saw him about 4 years ago. So he's coming forward, and I'll put all that in the book, but I don't want to bore you. But I think that what the world needs is patience and understanding. And I think our biggest problem right now is going to be the migrants, and we need to help them transition into life. And it's I don't know how we're going to do it. I have some ideas, but it's creating animosity, resentment from both sides, and I think that's why we have some crime.
I'm interested. Sorry, Jeanette. I'm interested to know who this man is that came forward, or you say he's come forward, that's going to change things.
I was told there were going to be some new astrophysicists that are going to come in, and
men. It's men. It's not a man. It's men. Yeah.
Yes, and they were going to change the way we think and the world and our approach to life. And I thought, then they said some new music was going to come out and do healing, and we were going to have less illnesses. And that was really, really neat.
Pharmaceutical companies won't like that.
That I can understand, because music even today has a healing quality about it. When you listen to music, you feel calm, you feel serene. When I write books, if I'm writing books on spies or anything like that, or to the government or for anything, I will listen to music that really, really, that adrenaline in me to have my heroine take someone out,
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
music does control your life to a certain degree. It does with me anyway. But then again, I love music, you know. So, what were you going to say, Mark?
Oh, I was making snarky comments as usual.
Oh, well, at me, I expect.
No, just in. I was saying that when she's saying that music is going to heal a lot of people and there'll be less illnesses, and my first thought was, oh, the pharmaceutical companies won't like that.
No,
they won't.
No.
Yeah, what's coming forward is a different kind of healing. It must be music and lasers or something, but I think it's going to be a totally different feel, a totally different approach. And whoever gets there first, it's all good, know.
I shouldn't imagine this. Yeah, I shouldn't imagine really is going to happen in the near future, but maybe in a couple of 100 years' time, you never know. It might be music that we listen to when we've got a headache or something that because even today, like I said, music does help, and it helps in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean,
throws me into either being a calm, submissive person or a person that can rip your head off just by listening to music.
You've been a calm, submissive person, really? Where's this? Where is she hiding?
Okay, I'm a killer.
A serial killer, as they say. Yep. So you're right, also, Irene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, sort of. I do.
Well, Jeanette, when you had these near-death experiences and you came back, now all of these abilities or these things that you're learning about yourself and how you've been able to, to tune in and find people, did you notice any of that enhanced after the near-death experiences, or did you notice any other big changes in you or what you were able to do?
I don't know, because the first one I had was when I was 7. So the only thing I can tell you is that it's escalated through time, and I just get better and better and better at it. And but then again, I've had so many cases of being accurate that I've noticed that because I pay attention to the detail, that's why I find missing people. A lot of people, I think, are so close. I think they're very close to finding the missing person, but they're not close enough. I'm working on a case in the Midwest, and I know that people are seeing a similar item that I'm seeing, but I actually go for the throat, like, oh, that's a park. Oh, that's this. Oh, that's that. And so I said, oh, it's also a statue. So then I have to figure out how far away are the remains from the statue. And is it in the water? Is it out of the water? And all these other psychics, as you mentioned, they forget all those details and they just blow it off.
Well, here's my other follow-up question for you then. Do they forget these details, or are they just not seeing the details? And I'm curious on the mechanics of what you do and the types of visual information that you get. Now, when you're working on a case, is this information coming to you visually? Are you seeing it in your head, or would you call yourself clairaudient, clairsentient, how are you processing the information that comes in?
Well, I'm lucky. I have pretty much all of them, all the abilities. So let's say I had a brand new case. And let's say, like the one I'm working on right now I've got a brand new case out of Tennessee, and it's a missing little boy. And I said, okay, so you write down the process of who, when, where, what. Okay. And I also write down the address where he was missing from. And then what I do is the next step is there's a bunch of other steps I take, but then when I start getting visions. And then what I do is I also use the key term remote viewing, which is the same thing as vision. And then I also incubate what I call a dream. And what is an incubated dream? I use a process to make myself dream about details to help us find the missing toddler. And a dowser wants me to help her, and a psychic wants me to help her, an action psychic from England. And so I said, okay, so let's do this. This is the process. You know, you have to do your paperwork first. And then if you're working with cops, you have a different sheet of paper with the cop you're working with, because you have to be able to trust the cop you're working with. Sometimes you can trust, sometimes you can't. Sometimes the cop will follow through, sometimes the cop won't. And so on my particular case, I said, okay, on this particular case, what's fun is I say, is it residential or is it commercial or industrial? So in other words, is it at a house or a trailer? You know, some people live in trailers. Is it commercial, so you'll see an office building, or is it industrial, like, you know, at a dump yard, you know, a dumpster or a tow truck yard, that kind of thing. So I said, oh, this one looks like either a tow truck yard, but I don't think it's a tow truck yard. I think it's a bunch of abandoned old cars. And then I said, okay, so I see, and I would see a building, and then what I have to do is go on the internet, match the building I'm seeing that matches what I'm seeing. And I say, okay, so we're looking for this. Then what I do is I match up the roads that are around the area. So I say, okay, now this body, and I said, we're looking for a body, the remains of this child. And I said, he is looking out, and I don't see water. I see land. He's on land. And I said, he's put in a crate. And I said, like a pallet. He's next to a pallet. Do you guys know what a pallet is?
Yes.
Okay, so I said, so you're looking to spot him, look for the pallet first, bring canine with you, and I see this fence that is like 9 or 10 feet high with barbed wire. And not all fences have barbed wire, so that's going to put a trigger in your head. Hey, we got to find the fence with barbed wire. We got to find the pallet. We got to find this. We got to find that. So now I have to come up with, is it a regular street, a state street, a state highway, yada, yada. And because it's country, I have to find the main road coming into the industrial park. So I did say, oh, I think it's near his cousin's house. And I would say south. And I said, the body's about 45 minutes away from where he went missing. And so you have to figure all these little details out. And I said, okay, so like yesterday I found out, I saw a vision of a building, and I said, oh my God, I know what that is. I said, it's a construction trailer. And so now I've got to go. So now that I found what I'm looking for in the area, the surrounding areas, or the little radius, now what I have to do is find the street names or street numbers. Like I get 693. So I have to say, okay, so is there a 693 in the area that's a street sign or a map, you know, like a state street, that kind of thing? And then if there's a dog related, I'll say, okay, there's a black and white dog. It looks like not Toto or a Lab or a German Shepherd, but it's a black and white, and it could be blah, blah, blah kind of dog. So I actually go on the internet and say, okay, this is the kind of dog you're looking for. This kind of dog is at that site. And I keep breaking it down, and I give tons of descriptions. And then they go, okay, we're going to go search the area. And then I get yay or nay, we found him. Does that help?
Yeah, and it does. And that it's fascinating that you're getting such detailed information, because like earlier in the program you talked about 9/11. You had detailed information on 9/11. You saw the date September 11th. You saw the World Trade Center. You know, and I don't claim I'm a psychic in any way, shape, or form, but I've had experiences, and one of them was I dreamed of 9/11 2 days before it happened. Yet my dream was highly symbolic. And I didn't recognize it. I didn't know what it was until the day after 9/11 when it hit me, because in the dream, and of course it was dreamlike, but I've told this story before for our listeners, but I dreamed I was standing on this like desert shore on a like a river, and across the river was a landmass. It looked empty, but I knew New York City was over there. Next thing I know, there are two nuclear explosions side by side, and the mushroom clouds go straight up right next to each other. You see the symbolism there.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, there was a third one to the south. Well, I live up in New Jersey, so Washington, D.C. is to the south of me. And, I didn't see any planes. I didn't see anything else. That's just all I saw. And I didn't make the connection until the day after when I was watching some of the news footage. And then all of a sudden, it hit me like a ton of bricks. So, because it was symbolic and not literal, I had no idea what I was looking at.
Okay, so here's a trick. I do what I call incubating dreams. And I'm a little weird because a lot of people can't do it. And I said, yes, you can. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And here, hold on. I'm just telling my daughter I'm busy. But what's interesting is I use a really cool term that I was given. It was called show me. Show me the building. Show me the street sign. Show me 10 feet in front of the body. Show me 10 feet next to the car. Show me 10 feet from the sign so I can read it. Like I'm getting a little older, so the only thing bad with me is my hearing and my vision. So what I do is I say, show me 5 feet in front of the sign, street sign, so I can pick the exact street. And I don't want symbology. I said, I'm ready to take and accept, show me the pictures, show me the information. And that is a magic word I started using, and I got a lot more detail. But as you noticed, I asked question after question after question. And unfortunately, when you're doing this, you're unaware of it. A lot of people don't know that question will get you the results. It's very solution-oriented. And I think that's why I'm a little different, because I'm very, like I said, I'm black and white. I'm more influenced by Europe than most American psychics. They go, I'm seeing in the sky a cloud of an elephant. That's not going to help us, okay? It was funny because this other woman swears she's British, but Irene is obviously British. This other woman I'm talking to that says she's British, I can't hear very much of an accent, and we're totally different on our focus on finding missing people or mysteries or solving this or solving that. And I go for the throat. I think that's why most British psychics are faster, I think, on doing their work than Americans. Does that make sense? Irene, your take?
Sorry, I was... What was my take? So I got lost there. So what I'm saying is... You're saying that we're faster.
I think you're faster because you don't... I think you throw away all the crap. I think you're like...
Yeah, you do. You completely clear your mind. Clear your mind, and you focus just on one thing, and that's it. And when you're doing it, it's like you're actually moving through time. You're there. You're bilocating is the word, Mark, isn't it? By location, you're actually there at a point, and that's it. Yeah.
I'll just, I'll tell you, Irene, here's something funny. I got a call 6 months ago about a case, and they asked me if I would work on the case. And I said, well, I thought it was just on TV, and you guys had a famous psychic up there. And I said, didn't she find the remains? And they go, no. And I've known where this body is for years. I mean, I have like 10 cases that I can't touch. You know, my theory is you don't call people up and say, hey, let me find your missing relative. It's just not a good idea. Okay, so let's say I got the information and I was like, I got the answer on that case. I've got the solution. And so they paid this famous psychic to fly up there to New England and pinpoint where the body was, and they paid her $3,000 to $5,000. They call me and say, we can't pay you. And I said, oh, so you can pay the famous psychic, but you can't pay me. Look, when you get the chance, call me when you're ready. You've already got the TV media in your pocket. You've already got the money in your pocket. I don't have to be out in the public eye. We can just go do it confidentially. But if you paid her, you can pay me the same exact fee. And they didn't want to move forward. And I said, okay, don't. I'm okay with that. I find it insulting. If you would take time from my family, if it's a charity case, I get it. I'll do it. If it's not a charity case, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take time away from my family. They come first. And I'm sure Irene feels the same way. Your family comes first.
Oh, they always come first. Yeah. Yeah. But like I say, it's if I can work from home, I work from home. I prefer to work from home anyway. Occasionally I go up to London, but it's very, very rare. But it's it is a matter of you clear everything. You clear all the rubbish, all the noise from your head, everything like that. And it does feel like you are actually there at the scene of the crime or whatever.
Right.
You're watching it playing out in front of you. So.
Yeah, but see, English psychics or British psychics, whatever, they do so much better at it than American psychics. The American psychics are like, I'm guessing I see a barn. Well, great. Where the hell is the barn?
No, never guess. Never guess. You guess. If you've got to guess, you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. What's the point? Just say, I don't know, or it's this, or it's that, or the only thing I can see is a barn, which I think is funny. So we shall see. Okay.
My mom used to ask me if I was born in a barn.
You leave the gate open.
Close the damn door.
All the goats come running. Hey, it's a baby.
So, what about your ghost investigations?
When I was younger, I was a member of the Fortean organization. Have you ever heard that one? That one's a European organization.
Yeah.
At the Fort Fest, they had festivals every 6 months, and they were a blast because MUFON lecturers would come there, ghost hunters would come there, and they would do a regular ghost tour every 6 months. And so I was asked, what do you think, and so forth. And sometimes I would see stuff, and I would say, oh, it's a little girl. And sometimes I would get a name, sometimes I wouldn't. And the more I started working on it, the better I became at it. And I thought, well, this is fun, but it doesn't pay the bills. But I will tell you, I went and I had a blast. So I didn't really care. I was going to have fun. And then we got to figure out the history with it, because most of the Fortean Fest tours were with not just haunted locations, they were historical haunted locations, which I thought was awesome. Over in America, they go to people's houses that are haunted. And that's great. Your house is haunted, but let's go do a historical. I mean, that's a lot more fun.
Yeah, no, if I'm going to do anything, it's going to be a castle or something like that,
Yeah. Have you gotten a chance to go to the castles yet?
I'll tell you what, sweetie, where I live, you put your arms out and you're touching a castle. They're that close. This is Wales. Wales is packed with bloody castles.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we on the way down to St. David's at the weekend, saw some beautiful castles. Oh, you'd love them.
Oh, my God.
Make your mouth water. Absolutely.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. But I definitely love history.
There is so much history in this country. So much history. It's unbelievable. It's pouring out the walls.
It's crazy.
Yeah, even this house I'm in now, there's so much history to this house as well. So
I think that you guys the Brits used to have a TV show 5-10 years ago, and I think it was 10 years ago, and it was great. It was about a media woman who came in and hosted the show, and she had some psychics come in, and it was fun as heck. I mean, just as a voyeur, watching the TV, watching the show, people could text or they could send in notes through email, and they were going through the castle or the haunted restaurant or the haunted building.
Oh yeah, you're not talking about the most haunted lives, are you?
I don't know.
What we called the most haunted, and they done live investigations where they the viewers interacted with them by emailing or texting them and things like that.
It might have been that. But it was great because you have to remember we're not there. We're over here in the U.S. And we're watching you and your group. I mean, you get to see stuff you've never seen before. I mean, you're across the pond.
Yeah, but the crew of Most Haunted, I wouldn't give them. They're laughable, but they did go to some lovely historical buildings. I've got to give them that. And, you know,
they did.
It was worth watching that just to see the buildings and the rooms that they were going into. But as far as the rest of the show was concerned, half of it was
crap.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I never said that.
Yeah.
I did.
But you know what? for me being a TV watcher, it was late at night. It was fun. It wasn't scary. And it was just, wow, look at the big building. Look at the history. Look at the people. I mean, it was really neat in that sense.
See, you know? I invented a most haunted drinking game. You have to take a shot every time a stone is thrown. You have to take a shot every time Yvette screams.
You'll be drunk in 5 minutes.
and then you have to like take another shot every time they blatantly fake something. So you'd be drunk in 5 minutes. Yes,
you would be. I don't even drink, and now you're making me want to drink. So, you know, so that's how it goes.
I brought some rum back from Barbados.
Yeah, that place sounds pretty cool, though. I mean, I have not been there yet, so it definitely. Well, yeah.
Well, Jeanette,
I don't know why I thought you were in the Bahamas.
Even though we've said Barbados a million times, you told me it was a British colony.
I know. Why I've been thinking you're in the Bahamas. And like I said, if I had to send a helicopter out to pick you up, Mark, they would have gone to the wrong place, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would have. Yeah. Well, you know, you're probably talking to the other Mark, you know, in the alternate dimension. He went to the Bahamas.
Oh, stop.
Jeanette, actually, we are coming up on the end of the show here. So can you tell our listeners where they can find out more about you? Do you have a website or anywhere that people can follow you and follow your exploits?
I don't have a website. We are putting one together. But you know, I tell people if they want to reach me, it's real simple. It's reachjeanette@gmail.com, REACH Jeanette, GINETTE @gmail.com. And, but they can Google my name, Ginette Lucas, and Lucas, not the Greek one, the English one. And, I am on Facebook under my father's name, which is a really rough name. And the reason I don't have my own is every time I put one up, it gets hacked. Every time. And that's from the Anthony case. Every time I do something, you know, it just gets hacked. And so it's been very difficult. So we're actually doing a new profile on Facebook for my name, Ginette Lucas, to see what will happen this time.
Okay.
And hopefully it won't get hacked. But yeah, they can pull up Louis Matasha, and I have over 1,000 followers on that. And give it a shot. I mean, I tell people what we're up to all the time. I have a dowsing class in the fall. I'm giving right now. I'm going to be doing some psychic fairs and stuff like that. All the other casework I'm doing, whether it's treasure or missing person, I'll probably go public with it now. Because, as I said, I've had over 20 missing. I've helped find over 20 missing people. So.
Okay, great. Well,
I like doing it.
Jeanette, have you got any books?
No, I'm working on it now.
Oh, okay then. Yeah.
And I can't tell you a title because you know the title will disappear. So I gotta be hush hush. When I come out,
no. Yeah.
I'll go public on it.
Yeah. Yeah, keep the title to yourself. And if I was you with Facebook, slightly change the spelling on your name.
What? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what to do. So unfortunately, it is a challenge. But I'll get there. But yeah, if people can't reach me, they can always call you, Mark. I don't know if they want to bug Irene. She might say go away.
Yeah. Funny. They can reach out to us in Facebook, and we can point them in your direction.
Yeah, we can.
That'd be great. Okay. Yeah, because you know, it's real simple. It's Ginette Lucas. Reach Jeanette @gmail.com.
Okay.
And I think that'd be easiest.
All right. Well, Jeanette, thank you again for coming on the show. We are out of time. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another edition of Paranormal UK Radio here on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.
UK Radio Network.
And Irene, where can we be heard?
Everywhere.
That's right. All right. Well, have a great night, everyone. Irene, we'll catch you soon.
Okay, night.
Thank you. Night.
Night.